Hi, everyone. My name is Trinity, and today we're going to be talking about understanding CRT in agricultural education. We're addressing it to has how, as ag teachers, can we do better about understanding CRT in the classroom? So first, let's do a little bit of a definition. CRT, or critical race theory, is an intellectual movement and framework by examining the relationship between race, law, and power. Originally applied to analyze structural inequalities in the legal field, CRT explores how racial biases and systematic inequities are embedded within the social structures, often perpetuating injustice against marginalized groups. So, we are focusing on understanding systematic rather than individual racism. So, our theory is, why does CRT matter in ag education? Well, before we get into the history and modern practices of ag education, the history of CRT originated from legal scholars such as Derek Bell, who pointed out how U.S. legal and social systems often work to reinforce racial inequalities. In the field of education, Lansom, Billings, and Tate applied CRT to unveil how educational structures similar to mere structural biases, paving the way for CRT's integration in other fields, including ag education. So, a little history about the ag industry. The ag industry has long been influenced by racial issues, from ownership inequities to labor exploitation. From starting from the early 1700s to even now, it is a big issue that we are still hoping to change as an industry. Some modern practices is discriminatory policies have affected who has access to land resources and ag opportunities. Ag being a primarily dominant white field, it has made BIPOC farmers feel like they're not exactly welcome. So we are here to change that, starting with the kids in the classroom and making sure they feel welcome and that they can be a part of this wonderful industry. So, some core principles of CRT and ag kind of go in three different ones. So, the first one is systematic racism in agriculture. CRT highlights how historical and current ag policies can disadvantage marginalized communities. Researchers like Brown and Jackson emphasize listening to and validating the experience of marginalized groups. So, listening to those BIPOC farmers and migrant workers is super important to make sure we are hearing what they have to say about the industry. Their perspectives can essentially foster an equitable agriculture industry, so an industry that we as teachers should be fostering in the classroom. Counter storytelling is number two. Lanson, Billings, and Tate are a perfect example of this one. They talk about the importance of counter narratives. So, in ag, counter storytelling encourages learning from diverse agricultural traditions, especially those of indigenous and BIPOC farmers. This creates a more inclusive understanding of agriculture's past and present. So, making sure that we're not just focusing on one primarily dominant group, but focusing on them as a whole will make our classroom feel more safe as an environment and welcome those that may not feel like they're being heard or they have anybody to hear in the ag industry when in reality there is somebody. Soronzo emphasizes incorporating a cultural relevant um, pedagogy. In agriculture, this means creating a curricula that reflects diverse perspectives, validating the knowledge and experiences of all students, and ensuring ag education is inclusive and representative. So, same thing that goes back to storytelling. We want to make sure that we are telling all these stories so every student feels heard. Entrance convergence kind of goes back into CRT suggests that reforms benefiting marginalized groups often only succeed when they align with the interests of dominant groups. So, making sure as teachers we are advocating for anything that will benefit everything that will benefit the industry as a whole, not just what benefits one dominant group. For instance, industry advancements that benefit marginalized groups sometimes only gain support if they enhance productivity or economic gain. This concept calls for vigilance to ensure equity practices are genuinely inclusive and not selectively beneficial. So making sure that it benefits everybody and not just a certain group of people. So, why does CRT matter in agriculture? Well, understanding industry evolution is super important. CRT helps students see how policies and practices in agriculture have historically affected different racial and ethnic groups, fostering a comprehensive understanding of industry's evolution, awareness of current challenges. So, CRT highlights ongoing issues and inequity within agriculture, such as equal access to resources and opportunities for marginalized communities. Recognizing these challenges is the first step toward meaningful change. The last one is inspiring equitable practices. Once these issues are recognized, we can motivate students to pursue further um, into ag practices and policies, which will contribute to a more just and sustainable industry. Chapman in 2013 notes that CRT inspires students to move beyond awareness to actively engage with issues of equity. In agriculture, this can empower students to go far with policies, inclusive practices, and ethical treatment with all workers and stakeholders. So overall, by integrating CRT practices into ag education, we can cultivate an informed, empathetic, and socially responsible generation of students who are prepared to address and reform the inequities embedded within the ag industry. And these are my references. Thank you so much.